Durant again. When Tiridates came to receive the crown of Armenia, he knelt and worshipped the emperor as Mithras, sun god and an incarnation of Babylon's Tammuz. When Nero built his golden house, he prefaced it with a colossus, 120 feet high, bearing the likeness of his head haloed with solar rays that identified him as Phoebus Apollo, unquote. Ditto, it's the sun god again, Tammuz. This reminds us not only of Nebuchadnezzar's big statue, but we also get an image of the beast or Antichrist mentioned in Revelation, something we'll get to later. And what was that about not regarding the desire of women? It's not like Nero was averse to the services they could render, but, well, let's just say it wasn't healthy to be a woman in Nero's world. He ignored his wife, Octavia, in favor of an ex-slave, Claudia Acte, of whom he soon grew weary. Replacing her with the beautiful Poppaea Sabina was problematical, however, for they were both married, and Poppaea wouldn't settle for merely being our boy's mistress. Nero divorced Octavia on the grounds of barrenness, forcing Poppaea's husband to do the same. Meanwhile, Nero's mother Agrippina came to the innocent Octavia's defense, so the emperor arranged for Mommy to meet with a fatal accident. Actually, it took poison, a contrived shipwreck, and finally the sword to accidentally kill her. Then the paranoid Poppaea imagined that the exiled 22-year-old Octavia was plotting against her. I mean, after all, that's what she would have done in her shoes. So she goaded Nero into having her killed as well. Ironically, the pregnant Poppaea was herself done to death by a kick to the stomach, apparently administered by Nero in response to her nagging about his coming home late from the races. Suetonius reports that the grieving emperor then found a young man named Sporus, who closely resembled Poppaea, had him castrated, married him in a formal ceremony, and, I quote, used him in every way like a woman. I think that's about all that needs to be said about Nero's lack of regard for the desire of women. Then, of course, there's the little matter of burning Rome to the ground in July of 64. Nero made a great show of trying to control or contain the fire while it raged, and providing relief for the hundreds of thousands of homeless Romans in its aftermath, not to mention placing the blame squarely on the shoulders of the Christians, whom everybody just knew were antisocial and bigoted enemies of the Roman way of life. This is just one more example in a long string of striking parallels between Nero and the prophesied Antichrist. Am I suggesting, with the preterists, that Nero fulfills the prophecies? No, although he clearly is a type of what is to come. What I'm suggesting is that the same demon who possessed Nero will be released from the bottomless pit to take up residence in the sorry carcass of the Antichrist sometime during the last 7 years. Remember John's words.
The beast that was and is not is himself also the eighth, and is of the seven, and is going to perdition. Revelation 17:11.
But I digress. I've been known to do that. The angel isn't through explaining the scene to John.
The 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings, who have received no kingdom as yet, but they receive authority for 1 hour as kings with the beast. These are of one mind, and they will give their power and authority to the beast. These will make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb will overcome them, for he is the Master of masters, and the King of kings. And those who are with him are called chosen and faithful. Revelation 17:12-14.
We are being given a bit of insight into the nature of the Antichrist's rise to power, not to mention his fall. Elsewhere, we have seen that 3 of the 10 kings are ripped out by the roots. That is, they cease to exist as separate political entities. But here we see that the Antichrist's kingdom is not assembled through military conquest, but is rather handed over to him willingly by the governments of the 10 nations, because they believe that he is the answer to their problems. They all agree he's the man. Then we're given a snapshot of the Antichrist's whole career. He and his followers fight against Yahshua. Yahshua wins. End of story. Note that the Lamb, Yahshua, is not alone, but he nevertheless overcomes the Antichrist and his allies all by himself. As we shall see later, those who are with him are the raptured saints, now the bride of Christ. The angel sheds more light on the relationship between the harlot and the beast.
The waters which you saw, where the harlot sits, are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. And the 10 horns which you saw on the beast, these will hate the harlot, make her desolate and naked, eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. For God has put it into their hearts to fulfill his purpose, to be of one mind, and to give their kingdom to the beast, until the words of God are fulfilled. And the woman whom you saw is that great city, which reigns over the kings of the earth. Revelation 17:15-18.
The harlot dominates not just one Gentile nation, culture, or religious tradition, but many. I would venture to say all of them. Here we have our first peek at her fate. She will be destroyed by the Antichrist and his new Roman Confederacy. Talk about strange bedfellows. The Antichrist's 10-nation kingdom ends up being the sword in Yahweh's hand, just as Sennacherib's Assyria and Nebuchadnezzar's Babylon were. Yahweh hates the whore of Babylon because she's responsible for luring his people away from his love. The Antichrist hates her because she's a rival for power, the one who stands in the way of his insatiable ambitions. It's worth noting that the Greek word for city, polis, means a place with walls around it. The root from which it's taken means battle, fight, or war. Calling the woman a city implies her readiness to defend her position. The plot thickens. Many people have been tempted to equate the whore of Babylon with the Roman Catholic Church and call it a day. They're on the right track, though a little short-sighted. I believe it goes far, far beyond that. Yes, the Roman Catholic Church is today's most obvious repository for the rites and rituals of the Babylonian mystery religion. But Babylon's scarlet thread runs through the fabric of most every religion on the face of the earth. At its heart is a turning away from the revealed will and plan of Yahweh, adopting instead an alternate path, any alternate path. Satan doesn't particularly care which one you choose, at least not yet. He's happy, of course, with die-hard atheistic secular humanists who have convinced themselves that there is no God. But he's just as happy with devout and pious Catholics, and Protestants and Orthodox Christians too, for that matter, who rely on good works and church tradition to earn merit with God on some grand cosmic scale of good deeds versus bad. I think Satan particularly enjoys the irony of Islam because it holds well over 1 billion adherents in slavery, in spite of the fact that it's an incredibly stupid excuse for a religion. Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, Confucianism, and a plethora of other religious philosophies serve his purposes quite nicely as well. So does ignoring God altogether while trying to build a comfortable life for you and your family. Babylon in the long run is found in anything and everything we put between ourselves and our Creator. I said that Mystery Babylon permeates almost every religion. There are 2, and only 2, exceptions, and one of them isn't really a religion at all. The first is Judaism, which is today little more than the strict observance of a set of traditions handed down not from Nimrod, but from Moses, via a long line of scribes and rabbis who've added layer upon layer of obfuscating minutiae. Its adherents, who are virtually all Jews racially, follow these traditions as faithfully as they can, but they don't know what they mean. They've lost sight of the fact that the Torah, the instructions, are an elaborate rehearsal of Yahweh's plan for the redemption of all mankind. If the Jews understood this, they would have already become part of the second uncorrupted religion, which is not actually a religion at all in the technical sense, but merely a personal relationship with their God, Yahweh. Christianity at its core is nothing but Judaism fulfilled, Judaism purified. The shame is that few Christians understand the law of Moses any more than Jews do. It's not an onerous collection of 613 rules and regulations from which we were released by the risen Christ. He himself said that he has not come to destroy the law, but to fulfill it. The Torah is rather a beautiful picture of Yahweh's love for us. It's there to instruct us about God's intentions. It's the owner's manual for a successful life. If you ask most people about the Ten Commandments, they'll tell you, if they know anything at all about them, that they prohibit things like lying, stealing, murder, and committing adultery. True enough, but that's not where they start. The heart of the Torah begins with a description of our proper relationship with the God who made us.
I am Yahweh, your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You shall have no gods before me. You shall not make for yourselves a carved image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them, nor serve them. For I, Yahweh, your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generations of those who hate me, but showing mercy to thousands, to those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not take the name of Yahweh your God in vain, for Yahweh will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain. Exodus 20, 2-7.
Recognizing that our English translations invariably start off poorly by getting the most important part, the name of God, Yahweh, wrong, substituting it with a mere title, the Lord, perhaps it would be to our benefit to paraphrase these first three commandments for modern American ears. I am Yahweh, the only one whom you are to revere. I am he who delivered you from your chains of slavery. Therefore, don't worship, revere, or bow your heart to anything or anyone else. Don't let the work of your hands come between us either. In other words, don't spend all your time and resources chasing after the things of this world. And don't equate me with the things I've made for you to enjoy, for I made you for my enjoyment. I hate it when you turn your back on me, though I've built you with the ability to do that. If you reject my love, it's not good for you. You'll die without my constant care. The harm you're doing to yourself will have repercussions for generations to come. But if you reciprocate my love, I will delight in showering you with mercy and blessings. And be careful not to accept or advance anything that is false, deceptive, or destructive in my name, or associate these things with my character, or say that they're not my word. They are not. I can't ignore it when you choose to worship counterfeit gods, for I am holy and set apart. The very next commandment reminds us of Yahweh's plan of sevens. God said he worked for 6, quote, days, and rested on the seventh, revealing the pattern he has ordained for us. Man first did this through the observance of the weekly Sabbath, codified in the fourth commandment. The ultimate fulfillment of this principle will be our millennial rest after 6,000 years of trying to get it right. Don't give up. We're almost there. So if by far the largest segment of, quote, Christianity is the Roman Catholic Church, how does this institution correlate with the harlot of Babylon? At this point, it seems I've pointed out two mutually exclusive definitions. First, that
the 7 heads are the 7 mountains on which the woman sits,
which can only be Rome, and the second,
the waters which you saw, where the harlot sits, are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues, and the woman whom you saw is that great city which reigns over the kings of the earth.
which is so far beyond Rome, it's silly. I've also hypothesized that false and errant religion is only part of the puzzle, that Babylon at its most basic is comprised of anything that takes place of Yahweh in our affections, religious or not, and you're wishing, would you please make up your mind?